Right, hello everyone, welcome back to Dynamite Comics, and welcome back to me having a really bad cold. So I sound really bunged up, and if I sound a bit different, that's why. Today I'm back with another episode of 5 more recommendations from 5 publishers. This was intended to be a series, and I realised I haven't done a second episode for quite some time now. So here is episode 2 of 5 recommendations from 5 publishers. I hope you enjoy, and I'll just get into it. So, first up, I don't really have any order to this, so first up we'll go with Image Comics. This is a book called Shirtless Bear Fighter, and I can't get the light right on that. There we go. Can you see that okay? This is a book called Shirtless Bear Fighter, and it might sound silly and it might sound a bit stupid, but let me tell you, as bad as it sounds, like as stupid as it sounds, this book is one of the most story-driven, emotional, heartfelt books you might ever read. And the story in it is so great. I read this quite a while ago now, almost a year ago actually. And I absolutely loved it. It was a book I'd never even heard of until Stone Cold Comics recommended it to me, I think it was Stone Cold Comics. And yeah, he told me to get this when I asked for recommendations, and I'm really glad that I read it. I'm really glad I enjoyed it. It follows a character called Shirtless, who's seen there on the cover, who was raised by bears and is now the Shirtless Bear Fighter. I don't really want to say anything more than that, because part of the story, part of the absurd story is just figuring it out as you go along and just kind of being there for the ride. So yeah. Shirtless Bear Fighter by Image Comics. That is written by Jody Le-Youp, Sebastian Gierner and Neil Ventrell. I think they also did a book called The Weatherman, which I haven't checked out, but I'm inclined to check it out. Next up, by Mark Miller, from Marvel, we have Old Man Logan. Now this is just Mark Miller's run, this is not following what Jeff Lemire did after Mark Miller. I just wanted to just have Mark Miller's first initial story on here, because again with Shirtless Bear Fighter you just have to be here for the ride. It's such a great story, and there's things in this that I wasn't even expecting, like the spider buggy, the whole Hulk mutant, some great fight scenes, things that happen with Mysterio, all kinds of stuff. Steve McNiven's artwork, it's really great. It's brutal and it's violent and it's a lot like the film Logan, as well as being completely different. It's kind of the same in that it follows obviously Old Man Logan, and he's kind of like this superhero that's gone past his prime and he's one of the only ones left now. But then you get stuff from the wider Marvel universe that obviously they couldn't do in the Fox film. So you get the spider buggy, you get a venomized T-Rex, you get Hulk mutants, you get dinosaurs, you get the skeleton of Giant Man, you get blind Hawkeye, you get the death of every single X-Men, you get all sorts of stuff, and an emotional story that makes you feel for the character of Wolverine. So yeah, definitely check that out. And it's all contained in this one trade paperback. I should probably do ratings actually for this. So Shirtless Bear Fighter, probably teen. Yeah, teen. Old Man Logan, mature teen. There's some very violent stuff that goes on in that. Next up, I have from Mark Waid, I have The Irredeemable Omnibus by Boom Studios. So, Boom Studios, this is one of the first Boom Studios books I've read, and it didn't really disappoint. It's very different, and it's very strange to try and sum this up in words, because even after I finished this book, it took me quite a while to realise whether or not I liked it, because the story genuinely feels like it could finish less than halfway through. Feels like it could finish just there, and it doesn't, because a character called, I think he's called Cubit, stops a certain character from dying, and anyway, let's not get into the story right now, but yeah, it's one of those that it felt like it could end about halfway through, and it didn't, and then it goes to some places that I never thought it would, and the ending to it goes very, very philosophical and very like off the wall. There's actually a review here from Grant Morrison on the front, and they say Irredeemable is brilliant, hard-edged, progressive superhero comic. Comics. Yeah, so I feel like if you're a fan of theirs, like if you're a fan of Grant Morrison, you will definitely like this, because that's kind of the thing that I got. It seemed very, very Grant Morrison to me, and I'm not the biggest fan of theirs, I'm not the biggest fan of Grant Morrison, but I still really enjoyed this book, and yeah, I enjoyed what Mark Waid was able to do with a superhero team and a character that's sort of Superman-like. He tells everyone's different backstories, he tells, I don't know, just all kinds of things about how everyone got where they are. There's flashbacks, there's what's going on at the minute, but then obviously there's other stuff that happens that is very comic booky, is one of the ways to describe it. Very like, you just have to keep an open mind when reading it, and read it how you, I don't know, I like still I struggle to even talk about it, because it's really difficult to try and recommend it when myself I haven't figured out if I like it or not. It's one of them that's like, I think I like it, and I'm fairly sure I do, because I enjoyed the whole aspect of it, but yeah, I'm not sure. But basically, let me just go over it without confusing you or myself. It's a story about what if Superman snapped one day and essentially just went evil, and his entire team that he's been working with before try and stop him. That's the basic premise that I went into it with. It's so much more than that. So that is part of it, but it's not the entire story. I think that's probably the best way to sum it up, because maybe that's why I didn't like it. Oh, I did like it. I don't know, I'm still like, yeah. Right, so that is probably, probably for a mature teen, not because of any excessive violence, nudity or anything like that, but just comprehending it and being a bit more appreciative of the story. I think you have to be a bit older. Yeah. Next up, a book that's definitely not for teens, and a book that's probably adults only, except, yeah, it is adults only, is The Boys by Garth Ennis, and this is from Dynamite Comics. Yeah, first book I've read from Dynamite Comics. I'm not really sure what else they've published, really. I am still currently reading this series, and I'm just seeing some of the stuff in this book now that I cannot show on camera. But I'm still reading this series, and yeah, I'm about to actually start book 4, I think. Yeah, the one with the female on the front, book 4. And I'm enjoying it so far. I'm really enjoying it. It says on the back actually, suggested for mature readers, so mature readers, adults. I've read, the first book, kind of not slow, but kind of just like, it really introduces you to the world, and throughout book 2 and 3 you get much more of a feeling for it, and going into book 4, 5, 6 obviously I'm expecting a lot more to happen. If you've seen the Amazon Prime show, then you might know what to expect from this. It's very different to the Amazon Prime show in its fairness. I think it's one of those that a lot of people have said the Prime show is better than the book, and I absolutely love the Prime show. It's one of my favourite shows, one of my favourite superhero shows. But I do really enjoy the book. I enjoy Garth Ennis' writing because of the absurdity of it, and I think throughout this book, or at the start of one of the introductions, it says the book to out preacher. And that's kind of true. It does go for it, and it does out preacher. But then you've got to ask yourself, is it just gratuitous, or is it adding to the story? And I think in a lot of instances it does add to the story, but I'm a fan of stuff like hyper-violence and stuff like that in comic books, so like seeing characters have absurdly horrible things happen to them, or like really violent fight scenes. I don't know, I think it's quite cool sometimes. But obviously, yeah, it's not for everyone. But that is The Boys by Garth Ennis. And then finally, we have the big book that if you've seen I think it was my July unboxing. I think Irredeemable and this came together in my July unboxing actually. This is Brian K. Vaughan's Y the Last Man. And here I have the Omnibus, which collects all 60 something issues, 60 issues, all 60 issues. Yeah, I'm gonna put this down because this is quite heavy. But this is from DC Vertigo, by the way. And I thought this episode, I'd just do DC Vertigo as one rather than doing DC and Vertigo separately like I did last time. Because then I could show off stuff like Dynamite and Boom Studios and things like that. So this book follows Yorick and his monkey Ampersand as they discover one day that they are the last two living species with a Y chromosome. Every other male on the planet has completely died. Every other human, animal, everything, apart from Yorick and his monkey Ampersand. Then this happens whilst Yorick is proposing to his girlfriend Beth over the phone because Beth lives in Australia. So when the plague, the virus, whatever you'd like to call it, happens, Yorick decides to travel to Australia to go and find Beth. But along the way he meets a special secret agent 355 and Dr. Mann, and they try and find a cure for what's happened. They try and find, why it happened. They try and find the reasoning behind it, and their journey takes them all over the world and spans years. It's really, really story driven, obviously, and it's just very good. It's just a very good story. I know my buddy Mad Dog Comics really likes this, and I can see why. It's very emotional in parts, and yeah, the ending is one of those that has stuck with me ever since I finished it. The last frame of this comic has stuck with me since I finished it almost a month ago now, and that's why I wanted to recommend it, because it's very different to a lot of things. You know, you have shows and you have books and stuff like that that's like, oh, the last man on Earth, or the last person on a desert island, or in a post-apocalyptic world, or stuff like that. But this is very different to all of that, and it's not what you'd expect either. So when I told my girlfriend about this, I was like, oh, it's the last man on Earth, and it's written by a man, and she was like, oh, it's not going to be great, then is it? It's going to be some male fantasy, like this guy being hunted down by these women because they want to reproduce with him or something like that. And as a man myself speaking, I don't think it is that at all. I think the way Brian K. Vaughan is able to write characters, and I obviously, again, I can't speak for women, but like the way, in my opinion, he writes female characters is really well done in this book. I enjoyed it a lot. I thought every character was really fleshed out, really well, acted and given a backstory to. I just liked it. I liked it a lot. And it's one of those where some of the issues, I think some of the issues might even be like months apart in continuity, like in the story, some of the issues might be months apart, but it kind of then adds to the feeling that if you're just reading it casually like I was, where I read it over the span of I think 3 weeks, and I just kind of, maybe 2 or 3 nights a week, I'd just like read 10 issues or something like that. I don't know, not even that. And I'd just like read on a Monday, and then like on a Thursday I'd come back to it, and even though it was only a few days for me, it had been like months for the characters, and it kind of added to that sense of just dropping in on their lives and seeing how they're doing. And yeah, Yorick's a character that I really enjoyed. I thought Brian K. Vaughan wrote him really well. It made me want to get a pet monkey, Ampersand, and I just enjoyed it. So that's all 5 of my recommendations. I will just really quickly run through them once again for you, just because I'm aware of the time of this video. So we've obviously got Y the Last Man by DC Vertigo, written by Brian K. Vaughan. We've got The Boys by Garth Ennis from Dynamite. We've got Irredeemable, written by Mark Waid from Boom Studios. We've got Old Man Logan, written by Mark Miller from Marvel. And finally, we've got Shirtless Bear Fighter, written by Jody Leop from Image Comics. So that's all 5 books. See if I can hold them next to my head for the thumbnail. There we go. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed. I hope you saw a book that you want to read or that you have read and that you enjoyed. If that is the case, let me know. Let me know down in the comments below if you saw anything that you are now going to pick up, or like I say, if you've read any of these books already and you loved them or you hated them or whatever. But yeah, thank you all so much for watching. If anyone is still watching, I hope you enjoyed, and I'll speak to you all later. Bye. Bye.